What's up, everybody? Man, this weekend of NFL football, man, so many games like they ended in some of the craziest fashions I've ever seen possible. You got Mac Jones trying to tackle Chandler Jones. He just walks over his ass. And then you got the Jags, that interception they took to the crib to end in overtime. And then who else won in overtime? It was the Chiefs, I think. Yeah. Against
The
the
Chiefs
Houston
and the
Texans.
Vikings.
Yeah.
Vikings came down, largest comeback of all time.
It's just been a crazy weekend of football. All started and kicked off on Thursday. Glad to see football on Saturday, especially with no bowls games and stuff. But the thing I wanted to get into before we started the show, Justin Fields rushed for 1,000 yards this season. And that is, it's a small company with that stat. You got Lamar Jackson, you got Michael Vick, those kind of guys. But can he do this consistently? Or you think this has just been just this year? What were your thoughts on that mark he reached?
And it's a huge milestone, especially when you think about if we were running this offense from game one, what this could look like. I mean, he could literally be leading the league in rushing.
Could have had 2,000 yards rushing, probably. Shit.
Right. Shit. It's astonishing to see what he's been able to do. And he just looks like a man amongst boys when he tucks that ball and gets ready to go. And then you see how easy it is for him to get passes now because people have to commit to stopping him once he breaks contain
Crazy
on any pass play. So he's getting those easy throws like he did on that 2-minute drill in the fourth, where it's just, it's two guys are wide open.
And that's something I would like to see more next year. And hopefully Justin Fields can keep doing that and be like a Lamar Jackson guy who can get 1,000 yards rushing in his sleep. But we got a lot of things to cover in this show, a lot of things to talk about. NFL, Thursday night football, we're filming this right now. It looks like Baker Mayfield probably not going to get the dub. The story is going to, his story of just having a great year possibly might come to end this year. And the Packers, who knows? They might be going on a run for the playoffs. Hopefully, I would much rather see them in the playoffs than any of the two teams that played last night on Sunday Night Football, but we'll get into that too. Like I said, we got a great show ahead of us. You ready to get into it?
Let's do it.
Let's get into Bears-Eagles talk. What were your thoughts on this game? Some bright spots, some of the things you noticed. How did you feel about this game? Because you had Jalen Hurts as your fantasy quarterback, and you were sweating bullets, I bet, during this game.
Yeah, especially in the first half when he threw 2 picks. I thought this game was a great building block for the Bears. And Justin Fields continues to add great games under his belt, especially against great opponents. Every game this year that we've had like a playoff team, he's shown in and showed out.
And this was probably one of his best games too. Passing,
right.
like completion percentage, all that
against the Eagles. And literally no one can get anything on that team. And the experts will call this a trap game. I might tend to lean that way too, but that doesn't take away. Usually defense travels, and the fact that he was able to do that to that defense, arguably the best, second best or third best, if I had to guess. I mean, that's pretty impressive. On the flip side, the Eagles consistently find ways to win, whether it's a blowout or a close game. And Jalen Hurts continues to show why he is, the MVP of this year. But he didn't come away from that game unscathed. Looks like he's on the injury report.
The sprained shoulder or something. But with that game too, talk about him being like MVP and all that stuff. We already gave him his flowers the last episode. But looking at that, like he threw 2 interceptions, but still 300 yards passing. The balls he did throw that got to his receivers, they were perfectly thrown. You got a ball that went right into the hands of AJ Brown over the shoulder on Jalen Johnson. But that was, Jalen Johnson, that's another thing I want to get into too. His matchup against AJ Brown, I thought he played extremely well and a great building block for the future. Tongue twister. But great building block for the future. I thought that was great. His play, Kyler Gordon's play, Brisker coming back and doing his thing. A lot of things to knock your head on. And I was expecting the Eagles to put 40 on us like they've been doing to everybody, but that just shows this Bears team is frisky. let us get some more dudes in the facility. Let us get some more defensive players that can change the game. It's over with.
100%. And yeah, I think the sky's the limit for Justin Fields. He keeps confirming that he has the potential to be arguably the greatest dual threat quarterback we've ever seen.
Ever. Over Lamar too, which is
I'm
crazy.
taking him over Lamar. I mean, look at the way he's able to run, and he's faster than Lamar at this point.
He's bigger too. He's trucking
he's bigger.
dudes. He's
I
trucking
think he
dudes.
has more potential as a passer too. So sky's the limit. I think like I said, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson combined.
Which I like that. I like
faster.
I like that bringing those two guys together, and that's a pretty good comparison and pretty solid comparison too. But with this though, Justin Fields playing to the level we talked about, Jalen Hurts playing very well. Could you see these two dudes being those guys in the NFC for years? You think about the AFC, all the quarterbacks they have, but can this be, the Patrick Mahomes and the Josh Allens of the NFC, you think?
Oh, no question. I mean, you look at the rest of the NFC from a young
perspective. Desmond Ridder?
Exactly.
Is he on the list? Nah.
I mean, who else? Let's take a look.
I mean, Kirk Cousins. That's a bunch of old heads,
Right. So
can't think of a good young quarterback.
Literally, maybe Trey
Jared
Lance.
Goff.
Dak is
about to be 30
sandwich. Throwing pick sixes in overtime.
And that wasn't his fault though. Noah Brown should have caught that. And looking back at that play, I seen some dudes on TikTok that are analysts and shit. I seen some dude talk about it, replay the play, and they had 3 receivers running the same route into the same area. And that had all the defenders around each other. So there could be some blame on Kellen Moore's part on that game. But sadly, let's get back to
that's usually a poor execution, though. Motherfuckers ain't drawing up plays for everybody to be in the same direction.
But let's get back to the Bears for a little bit. We had a lot of injuries in this game. And we had a lot of injuries coming into the game, which that's why I thought it was going to be, a shit show. But right. I was something about this Bears team, Obviously, I'm happy we don't get the job done in the end of the game and we don't win, but just something about seeing this team early on in the game take on the lead. What were we up? Was it 10-0 or is it 7-0 on this Eagles team that's 12-1? So there's just so many things to be excited for. I mean, offensively, our offensive coordinator, he is a little inconsistent. There's some games where he coaches the best game of his life. He does, but he's a first-year play caller, so we can't get too much onto him. But he's definitely had some great games, and he's had some bad games. This game, I think, was a bad game. And then Alan Williams, he coached a pretty good defensive game this week and then last week. So you can only be excited for the future with these games. And it just comes down to getting that guy the second pick or getting multiple guys. So, I mean, what do you think about the future of things with the defense coordinator, like some of the things I mentioned?
Yeah, I think it's the first time in a very long time, maybe that first 2 years with Nagy, I felt like that. We're like, wow, we finally got a coach.
Eberflus is the guy, I think, yeah.
Finally got a GM. And we've never had all 3 of those. I don't think in the history of the Bears, since in the history of the Super Bowl era, have we had GM, head coach, quarterback.
You got to get rid of the owners, though. The McCaskies, them bitches. They got to go.
They're finally changing their ways, it seemed like,
Yeah.
Can't run it like a mom and pop. Colin Cowherd made a great point. Like, you can't run this like a mom and pop organization. The money is too big. You got to be aggressive. You got to be able to change. You got to be able to go with the flow, and building great defenses is a thing in the past at this point. Right.
You just got to get the right guys to coach the defense, and then you get some building blocks. You put some guys, implement it. You focus on the positions that are the most important on defense: pass rusher, some corners. DB. Which this year's draft we focused on corners and secondary, and it seems like we got a couple good guys in that department. You guys just got to bring back Eddie Jackson next year, which had a great Pro Bowl year. Brisker, I think, is the gem of the draft for us.
No
Kyler Gordon
question.
struggled on earlier in the year, but now he's coming into his way. Just got an interception against Jalen Hurts this week. He's playing. He's a better tackler now onto the year. So a lot of things to be excited for. But let's get back to the Cowboys, man. That shit.
Nice.
Micah Parsons came on the podcast, not our podcast, the Vimecast, Volume Sports, Colin Coward shit. And then he said all this shit about the Eagles is a Jalen Hurts, all this stuff. He was almost right. I was thinking like, damn, maybe he was onto something. But then Jalen Hurts, played a little better in the second half and they got the job done. And then for him to talk all that shit on the podcast and not even, not even be ready for Trevor Lawrence this week and that Jags team, you can't really, go out there and talk. That's why coaches and that's why a lot of people don't like that shit. They don't like you to get out there and talk shit on the podcast, talk shit on social media and all that stuff because it backfires like it did this week for them.
I thought that was a freaking amazing game, and somehow or another, I knew the Jags were going to be able to do that because they did it the week before.
And it seemed like every punch the Cowboys had, Jaguars had an answer for it offensively, and the corners. Anthony Brown's out with like a meniscus, some injuries out for the season, one of their corners. But opposite Trevion Diggs, that other guy was getting toasted. Kelvin Joseph, Zay Jones had another huge game.
Nice.
And he's not on nobody's starting lineup. I don't know anybody who has Zay Jones starting in fantasy, but he's putting up 34 points in fantasy. He's putting up numbers on your bench. So maybe you got to make that move. But this Jags team, Trevor Lawrence, we talked about NFC guys, Justin Fields, Jalen Hurts being the future. Is Trevor Lawrence entered that conversation with the Mahomes, with the Justin Herbert, those kind of guys? Has he entered it yet? Or is it too soon?
Oh, hell no. It's way too soon.
It's too soon? He's balling.
He is balling, but I think that's his ceiling, no question. He should be up there. And that's what, he came out of college graded as the highest quarterback since Andrew
Luck, yeah.
So that we all know his ceiling. It's just, getting him with the right play caller, getting him with the right talent. And they've done that. And it took them a while to get to this point. You think about the NFL and the margin of error. All these games are going down to the wire. And just as easily as you could be 8-4, you could just as easily be 4-8. So what is the difference?
Look at us.
Exactly. So literally one possession difference in some of these games. So they're just finding, they finally hit their stride, new head coach, new system, all the bullshit that happened last year. They had overcome. Now they're in a situation where they got a great running back, great receiving core, tight end that's healthy, and the defense can get after passer and be opportunistic. That's really all you need in today's NFL. And you got a great young quarterback who's living up to the potential that we always knew he was capable of. Just, kind of, he had Urban Meyer. I mean, what the fuck you want me to say?
Urban Meyer was kicking punters and shit during practice. So that just tells you a little bit what was going on at those practices. But it's cool that he did this against this Cowboys defense, because I mentioned on the hot take of the week, I didn't clip it, man. I was locked in with work, had them 4 a.m. shifts and stuff. I didn't clip it. I should have clipped it, because what happened? They did their thing. They beat the Cowboys in a must-win game for them. They can still win the division now with Tennessee losing to the Chargers. So things are looking up for the Jags. But on the other side, the Cowboys. Are they frauds? Are they frauds? What do you think?
I think people have to realize Dak has a ceiling. Like, we've seen enough from him to know where he's at in terms of the rest of the league. And I think he's a good quarterback. And I think he's at the very top of that good category, but he's not getting past that.
No.
And there just so happens to be ceilings when it comes to that. Guys that can make a play and when they need to. Look at Mahomes, look at Burrow, A-Rod back in the day. Forget all the old heads. Let's talk about the new generation.
Even Russell Wilson back in his heyday.
Forget all the old heads. We talk about Joe Burrow. We're talking about Josh Allen. We talk about Lamar Jackson. We're talking about Justin Fields now. We're talking about Trevor Lawrence.
Bring him in the combo. Yeah, because
and
with
obviously
all the
Patty Mahomes as the very best. So
yeah, with all these young quarterbacks, where does Dak rank? Where is he on that list? He's pushing, he's going backwards, not forwards. On with all these young
he's in
quarterbacks
the
getting
middle of
better.
the pack. Like
Yeah,
he's in the top or middle of the pack, where he's you're pulling hairs if you're talking him, Kirk Cousins, Kyler Murray, some of these guys. I put him over Kyler at this point in the year, of course.
yeah.
Kirk, and after Kirk's last game, I mean, shit.
Kirk can put up numbers every now and then.
They both can.
Yeah.
So he's right around that range, if I'm being honest. But I think there's a ceiling when it comes to that, and you see when they play good teams, what happens.
Yeah, or in the playoffs.
Same thing happened to Green Bay. I mean, he couldn't put up 0 points in the fourth. So
and especially
why
with him having all the talent in the world, like these Cowboys teams haven't been
loaded,
entrenched with talent offensively
loaded.
and defensively. And you put a guy like Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, any of those guys in the AFC on the Cowboys team, I think they get a chip. I think they get a chip. I think they get a chip by now. I think they get a Super Bowl.
Without a doubt. Without a
Justin
doubt.
Fields too. Not just like,
I mean, this year
yeah,
beyond, no question.
he would be the MVP probably.
No question. So, like I said, it's just a ceiling with him.
Now, we already know who the best quarterbacks are, AFC, NFC. We brought those up. But let's talk about some of the worst quarterbacks in the NFC. They played last night, Sunday Night Football. Daniel Jones, Taylor Heineke. Taylor Heineke, I'm rooting for him. He's a good guy. But there's a reason why the Commanders have not committed to him for multiple seasons back to back. Last year, they're still trying to get a quarterback. They're still trying to upgrade at the position. And with this game, it came down to possibly that McLaurin, him not getting that call. Did you see what happened with that? Like he told the ref,
if you give him a thumbs up, and then
he said he was good, and then they threw the flag. A lot of extra shit happened in that game. But what were your thoughts on Sunday Night Football? How did you feel about the game?
I was thoroughly impressed with New York's defense, specifically Kayvon Thibodeau.
He played very well.
He played outstanding. I mean, 12 total tackles, 9 solo, 1 sack, 3 TFLs, a QB hit, and a touchdown. Like, this boy dominated.
He was out there eating.
He was dominating. And then hats off to, obviously, Saquon Barkley. He put on a show, especially towards the end when you are calling on your running back to finish the job. Like, that's the difference between good and great. You're going to depend on that, like with certain backs, Nick Chubb, Derrick Henry, Saquon now,
McCaffrey.
where you just hand them the rock and drain the clock.
Yeah.
You're going to have to win games like this.
He did a good job at that, yeah.
So for him to do what he did against a really stout defensive front in Washington was super impressive. I mean, Daniel Jones, what the hell? They're winning in spite of him.
You don't think it? No. So you think it's their team and their coach that's winning? So I think similar. Micah Parsons should be saying that shit about the Giants and not the Eagles and Jalen Hurts. But I think they've won 8 games. He hasn't been losing them games, but I still think they need another guy at quarterback. Jimmy G, that would even take them to the next level. They would have won some more games this year. But so how do you feel about Daniel Jones? Should he get another contract? What do you think?
No. But at the same time, you got to find better. You got to go get that somewhere. So whatever that looks like for them, they need to make that happen.
CJ Stroud, maybe trade up give us a haul for the 2nd round pick, maybe.
Possibly.
Throw in nah. I was about to say throw in Kenny Galladay for the deal. We'll take it.
We'll take them for sure. Hopefully we can stir up some hometown magic.
Oh yeah. NIU alum. But with Daniel Jones and this Giants team, they lost a lot of games. They got off there, but this game, I think it was a good win for them, bringing stuff back. It's just interesting to see them win with nobody at the receiver position. Their tight end, he's decent, but it's literally Saquon Barkley is this offense. And then defensively, they have a lot of good guys. I think who was their defensive coach? Wayne Markendale, I think. But
Martindale, yep.
yeah, Martindale. So I think he's done a great job with this defense. They have a lot of guys. The pass rusher from Georgia is finally healthier. We've seen him have a lot of impacts on last couple of games, but this game was between two teams that I don't want to see in the playoffs. Not because they're dangerous. I just don't want to watch them play.
And I don't think one of those teams are going to make it. And if I had to guess,
It's probably
I know if I'm being honest, I think Detroit gets that 6th spot, and then it's going to be a coin flip between some of these teams, whether it's Washington, Giants, Seattle. I mean, they're going in the wrong direction fast.
I would much rather see Seattle get in between these two teams. I don't know. Geno Smith. I think they have a high-powered offense that can put up some points and stuff. Whereas the Giants, we've seen them against the Cowboys, we've seen them against the Eagles, we've seen how they looked against teams that are going to be in the playoffs, and that shit was a shit show.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, they might as well get back to 2 wild card teams. I mean, it's really no point.
Just for the NFC,
it's
though.
literally just for the money. Yeah, just for the NFC. Yeah, they just trying to make more money because, I mean, even Seattle's lost 4 out of the last 5. I mean, good God, and only one of them was a playoff team. So
the Raiders beat them.
If you want to count the Buccaneers, you can count them too.
That's a playoff team. No, that wasn't the team you were counting.
No, I was counting. They played the Niners last week,
and then the Niners dominated that whole fucking game. But we mentioned in the intro the biggest comeback in NFL history, the Vikings. Sorry, Jaden, I know you're still probably recovering, but it really got me the fantasy dub this week in the playoffs. Kirk Cousins having 32 points. I was at the little pop-up shop with my girl, trying to help her with the business and stuff, but I couldn't. I had to stop. I had to look at the game. I had to have it on. Customers were waiting. They were like, hey, can I get my shirt? Kirk Cousins is putting on a virtuoso, as Shannon Sharp would say, but putting up 32 points, and they were all literally in the second half. I had Justin Jefferson too.
-2 points going
in the first half, and 30 points coming back. It's really shitty, for Jeff Saturday. Trying to make a case for him to keep the job next year. That shit ended Thursday night. That shit was over. No way he gets another job. No way
he's doing his job. He was hired literally to tank. I mean, look at what they did to get Andrew Luck. It was, let's blow it up and get our guy and keep it moving. This rinse, wash, and repeat. You're going to have to be terrible 1 year, 2 years, go get you your guy, be good for 10, and repeat the process. Look at Golden State.
Hey, Golden State is the perfect.
Golden State did that on steroids, though. Yeah, which it's not fair to count them.
But with this game, this Vikings team, we're going to get into a little segment, I put up on the script. But with this Vikings team, I don't know how much I trust them. Ain't no way you should be down 30 points to the Colts. There's been teams that have lost to the Colts, and I have mentioned that is a bad loss to Jeff Saturday and them dudes, Matt Ryan, all that stuff. But the Colts going up 30 in the first half, inexcusable. They ended up winning because, the Colts are the Colts. But I think this Vikings team, I see them, one of the teams in the wild card, I think they're wanting to see the Vikings in the first round. I think the Detroit Lions are wanting to see the Vikings in the first round, and I give the nod to Detroit in that game.
No question. I think the Cowboys can easily beat them. San Fran, Minnesota, Philly, Washington, and the Giants can beat them just because they pass rush. But I wouldn't bet on them though. And then you Detroit. So you're talking about out of the 7 teams, 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 7. I bet my left nutsack it's gonna win like a sure bet.
But no, yeah. And even if they make it past the first round, that second round is going to get ugly. I don't even think they could beat Tampa Bay in that second round. I think Tampa Bay would be more than happy to see Kirk Cousins in the second round. This is not just regular season ball.
They'll smoke Tampa Bay.
You think so?
Yes, Tampa Bay is ass.
Oof, I don't know. Kirk Cousins choking the big games, though. That's what I was going to bring up.
Tampa Bay ain't got no offense.
Yeah, Leonard Fournette. They could get hot at any moment. I'm always going to trust Tom Brady over Kirk.
Yeah,
Cousins.
I think they're slow. They're trying to limp into the playoffs because they're trying to get healthy.
Antoine Winfield just came back this week too. They're getting healthier,
Right.
but that was a tough game for them against the Bengals. That you can tell who the better team was in that game. The Bengals
Without
dominated
a doubt.
that one.
And that was the first time the Bucks scored 23 in
in a game.
That's the first time they scored 23 since they played the Chiefs. But
damn.
Which
and they got blown out in the game
3.
too, didn't they?
Yeah.
They scored 23 in blowouts. Garbage time.
Yeah, it was garbage time.
But
yeah, so they've only scored 23 twice this year.
That's sad. That's some Denver Broncos kind of shit.
It's terrible off. Though they are, if you look at the stats, they're
just winning
at
games.
The very bottom. They're at the very bottom. And they ain't even doing that. They 6-8, boy. They lose more than they win.
They still gonna get in the playoffs because Carolina just lost last week. And I was pushing the narrative Carolina would make the playoffs, but I can't see Sam Darnold in the playoffs. They lost. I mean, Pittsburgh is a good team. They're well coached, but that still was a bad loss in my mind. But looking at that Bengals Bucks game, can we say that the Bengals are the best team in the AFC yet? Should they be the favorite? Is it too soon to say that?
Should the Bengals? I think I ain't gonna lie to you.
They look good.
They look great.
They got some injuries on the defensive end, but they
One
got
thing
3
that
dudes.
Concerns me is their running, but I mean, you look at who they'd have to beat to get in. They can put them up with the best of them,
and they have a great record against the best of them with
right.
Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. And really, Joe Burrow is that guy. I think, with Lamar going down, that has helped them push further for this division title. I think they can get it. The AFC North will be theirs again. And because their schedule eases up, I think this week, I'm not sure who they play this week, but I know the following week they play Buffalo, which will be a great game.
Their schedule does not eat up. They got the Patriots, Bills, and the Ravens.
They're going to beat the Bills. I mean, they're going to beat the Patriots. And then Buffalo.
I can't wait to see that Bills game, though, right?
I love them against the Bills. I think they can beat Buffalo.
Yeah, I love them against the Bills, too. I know the Chiefs are going to be watching that game.
That's going to be – because I think people are saying, the Bengals can beat the Chiefs, but it's about getting to that game. You got some tough teams around. Baltimore is going to be a good game, too, if Lamar is playing, because that's going to be for the division.
True. I will say the Bengals did catch fire, but their schedule has been cake for a very long time. The Saints, the Falcons, the Browns, the Panthers, the Steelers, all teams that are not going to the playoffs. Then you got the Titans. They're going down. They did beat the Chiefs, which of course, that's their, biggest win of the year. But then they beat the Browns and then the Buccaneers. So
the Succaneers.
I'm interested to see how they play against the Patriots. But yeah, the Bills, the Ravens are going to be 2 big games for them
to close out the year.
No question.
I really, with this Patriots team coming off that dramatic loss, Jacoby Myers, throwing it to Chandler Jones for a touchdown, damn near. I seen some dude post the clip of the Bobby Boucher giving the guy the ball. That's what it was kind of similar to, which I think that was a great comparison. And with that play, it was definitely a tough play for him going forward, but he handled it like a champ in the press conference. He was, I took all fall for that. Talked to the reporters and that shit. If that was me that did that shit, you wouldn't have caught me in the locker room. You wouldn't have caught me nowhere. I would have been gone.
I've been in that position before where, we make a stop on defense. We're down maybe 3. I'm catching the punt and I'm like, fuck it, I'm taking this to the crib.
Trying to be a hero, man.
I already fumbled twice and they took me out. So I was only on punt. So I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna take this to the crib. I ain't getting back in the game. So this is my last play. Muff that bitch, we lose. Game over.
Damn. Where was this at? St. Cloud?
Yeah, this is at St. Cloud.
What was they saying in the locker room? They was looking at you with dirty looks and shit.
Nah, they was trying to
uplift you.
Don't let one mistake define you.
Hey, you need that. You need that kind of talk.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
Once you get in that moment, something like that,
Man, that's tough.
It's tough.
That's tough to live with. 3 fumbles. You were arguably the reason why we lost.
And personally, I don't know how Velus Jones does it, I don't know how he does it because he do that shit every week.
He need to find a new occupation.
Possibly real quick. He might get cut soon.
Come on, man. You can't make the one thing you can't do in the league is make the same mistake over and over and over and over. It's one thing you can't do. I don't give a fuck how talented you are. Cut your ass real quick.
But I feel like Eberflus, those guys are guys that, are going to keep trying to give these guys opportunities, especially
I agree.
If you, gave up a 3rd round pick for this guy. So hopefully he, can get something going these last 3 games. But because we're rooting for him at the end of the day, we might crack a couple of jokes, but don't take that shit to the heart.
Oh, of course not. He's got another year to prove himself, but after that, you're on your own, Chief.
But one thing, we all went through this crazy things, or we gave some takes this year at the beginning of the season. Some of us said, the Chiefs weren't going to win the division. Broncos, the Raiders, all these other teams were going to win the divisions and stuff. I'm guilty of it. I said the Chiefs would be a wild card team. The Chargers will win the division, and the Raiders would make the playoffs. All these other stuff, the Broncos too, all these crazy scenarios. And it ended up the way it usually ends up when you got Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. These guys just clinched the division yesterday. So with this, how crazy is it though? At the beginning of the year, if I told you the Broncos would be one of the worst teams in the NFL, would have the 3rd pick, well, they gave it to Seattle. And then the Raiders would struggle at the level they've been struggling, and the Chargers would be 8-6 right now, barely making the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, we literally went from last year, the NFC East being the worst division in football to
to the best.
Every team has the opportunity to make the playoffs this year.
It's fucking crazy, man. I mean, yeah,
and then you got the AFC West, and we thought every team was going to make the playoffs, and Denver is arguably the worst team in the league.
They're fighting with us for that 2nd pick.
Russell Wilson got his power stolen from the Monstars. And and then there's some consistent teams. To Tennessee, regardless of who's in there, they're always going to have a winning brand. Chiefs as well.
But they've been struggling too, though. The Tennessee Titans, 7-7.
They have been struggling as of late.
But they are a team that consistently is good. Credit to Mike Vrabel. They
also ran into a buzz. So I mean, the Bengals, the Eagles, the Jags, the Chargers. I mean, who the fuck wants to play those teams back to back to back to back? I mean,
unless you're tanking.
Could you ask? All 4 of those teams are arguably playoff teams.
Yeah.
And you saw the Jaguars at their hottest point. I mean, they dropped 36 on their head. So
that was a bad game.
Yeah. They played the Chargers outstanding. They played the Bengals outstanding. So I think they'll find their way, especially against the Texans.
Yeah. Well, I mean, whoa. The Texans, the past two games, gave the Cowboys a game and they gave the Chiefs a game. The Chiefs had to win in OT. So who knows? Lovey might have these boys playing to save his job. Maybe something's going on. This Texans team is playing good football.
He might as well, his name might as well be Jeff Saturday because he just in there to tank.
Yeah, interim head coach.
He in there to tank.
But so I asked you this question on one of the podcasts, and technical team wasn't doing their shit that day. They had the day off. Something must happen with that day. But so college football playoff. Give me a college football playoff like scenario. But in the NFL, who are your four teams that are in this playoff, and who wins it?
Ooh, it's gonna be hard in the AFC, but we'll start in the NFC.
You can only pick two teams, obviously.
Man,
or
it's
you
gonna
can
be
pick
hard
as many
in the
as you
NFC
want.
too. I like the Niners and the Eagles
Okay.
in the NFC. And then in the AFC, I'm gonna have to take the Bengals. And I mean, yeah, it's gonna be tough. Styles make fights. I think the Bills can beat the Bengals, so I'm gonna take the Bengals and I'm gonna take the Bills and the Chiefs.
Ooh. Okay. I like that. And with that, I think that would be, similar to Alabama, Ohio State, all those top tier teams in there with great coaches. With mine, I think I would go lean more towards it's similar to yours, just minus one team. I think the Bengals and the Chiefs, those two teams in there would be good. And who would you have winning it though? Like who would be
Man,
your championship game out of those four teams?
I think the Eagles and the Chiefs would be mine.
Oh, that would be a fucking good ass game.
Absolutely. I think the Chiefs win just because Mahomes is different.
That's all the explanation you need.
That's all it is. I mean, he's going to be able to make some plays that no one else on this planet can. Hard to plan for that, especially for the Eagles.
But that's why with mine, I'm thinking I got the 49ers versus the Chiefs. No, actually, I'm going to go 49ers versus Bengals. And my reasoning behind that is Eagles, we haven't seen them do it in the playoffs yet. We haven't seen them be the best team like they are right now. We haven't seen this version of them in the playoffs yet. They meet a team like the 49ers who has been there before, and that just experience will clash in that matchup. And I give the nod to the 49ers in that, no matter who the quarterback is. Maybe it's Jimmy G, maybe it's Brock Purdy, who knows? But I like them in that game with the play calling. They can scheme up what they can do with Kyle Shanahan, all that stuff factoring. And I think the Bengals, they meet the Chiefs, no, I think who knows what between those four teams, but yeah, we'll probably do AFC versus AFC and NFC versus NFC in that scenario. So I think the Bengals beat the Chiefs because Joe Burrow got their number. And I think that matchup would be great. The Bengals versus the 49ers. I'd have to take Joe Burrow in that one. He's won the college football playoff already. Why not win the NFL college football playoff the next step? So that's what I have winning that playoff.
I like the Niners in that matchup.
Really?
Yes. They're going to be on his ass.
After each sack, you're going to be licking his chops, waiting for another one.
But you
he doesn't
seen
get
how
razzled too much.
The pass rush last Super Bowl and how that impacted him. So
Von Miller,
not gonna be his
Aaron
fault
Donald, all that. Yeah. No. And with the scenario of the 49ers meeting the Eagles in the NFC Championship, like we talked about, with that, how much would it be a missed opportunity, a dead season if the 49ers beat the Eagles and the Eagles lose in the NFC Championship, you think? Would that be a failed year?
Of course not. I mean, you did see the moves they made, and if they made the appearance that it's all or nothing. But they also have a young nucleus that they can build off of. And I wouldn't be surprised if they lose in the NFC Championship against the Niners. I feel like that's a coin flip game.
Yeah.
I will give the nod to Jalen Hurts over Brock Purdy. I don't give a fuck how good he's playing. And he ain't asked to do a lot. I mean, he just throwing it to Kittle, play action. Guys are wide the fuck open.
Right.
Can't stop the run. So his job is pretty simple. Although he's doing that at a high level.
Uh-huh.
But guys, tight ends will run around, field wide the fuck open. I don't think that's going to be the case against the Eagles. So I would give the nod to the Eagles, but I could also see a world where the Niners just stop them completely on offense.
Yeah. And, they have made moves to win the Super Bowl and to be that team last standing. But, it comes down to, I think you get to the NFC Championship. If you lose and Jalen Hurts plays great, you know what you got, try to run it back next year, bring everybody back. You got the guy going forward, which that's all that matters. Year in, year out, you want to have those questions answered. You got the coach, you got the quarterback. Let's just try to do what we can to get to the last dance. So I wouldn't be mad at that either. I think that's the only scenario I think that it isn't a failure. I think if you lose divisional round after having the bye or something to the Cowboys or whoever comes in, I think that's a failure.
No question.
But, I had the hot take of the week. Last week. Said the Jags were going to make the playoffs, all that stuff. I think that shit might come true. Should have clipped it. But what you got for us for hot take of the week?
Hot take of the week, I have Detroit getting the 6th seed in the NFC.
Okay. I wouldn't be mad at that. How have they been looking? They're looking dominant.
And who would that put them up against? I think they play the Vikings. No,
yeah, they would play the Vikings.
The Vikings, because I feel like the Niners are going to get the 2nd seed. And then I think they win a playoff game.
They're playing at a high level. I think none of the teams in those upper standings in the playoffs want to play Detroit in the playoffs because they know things could go. You can flip a coin. Dan Campbell has his team playing at a high level. Jared Goff wins a playoff game, maybe gets another contract next year. Who knows? Things, anything can happen.
Right. I'm not. Kirk Cousins ain't gonna do shit though.
Hey, we haven't seen him have a good playoff game. The only time I remember a Vikings quarterback having a good game in a while, Case Keenum, Minnesota Miracle.
Right. Exactly.
His little playoff run he went on. He had
Andrew Diggs. Stephon Diggs. Who the hell is Andrew?
Andrew Diggs. Shit. But that's all we got for you guys for the show today. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. Hey, like I said, we might be pushing 2 episodes out a week. Who knows what's gonna happen? Obviously you gotta talk it up with the fiance, make sure it's cool with her. But right. We're gonna keep pushing content out, keep doing our thing. NFL talk, the games are getting better. This is all we're going to be talking about. So if you're sick of the NFL, you might have to watch another podcast. Because that's all we're talking about and all we're doing. Then we'll get to the NBA. Then we'll get to, but we're excited for where this is going. The year's about to end. We're possibly going to, I'm going to put out end of the year montage of all the funny shit that's been happening during episodes. We've talked it over. Jacob's wife coughing during the episode, him eating a steak during the episode. There's been some wild shit happening on this podcast. We're going to cover it. We're going to keep talking sports. We're going to do everything. But like I said, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. As always, peace.